I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me.
We just want to pop in the chat where we're tuning in from, and maybe just one word
And
that summarizes how you're feeling. Let's do a cycle check-in. I am super late luteal. I'm on day 24, so I'm about to bleed within the next few days. Hello, hello. We can just pop in the chat. How you feeling today? Where you tuning in from? And where in your cycle are you? And if you can turn on your videos, I would love to see you. Would love, love, love to see you, my sisters.
that will heal me, that will heal me. I release control, and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me, that will heal
Beautiful. Emma says, follicular phase, day 8, feeling creative and positive and grateful. Yay, that's beautiful, Angel. Happy to hear that. Yeah, I'm day 24 and I'm feeling a little bit tired today, a little bit lethargic, a little bit slow, but grounded, which is always beautiful.
Hi.
Hi, love.
that will heal me. I release control.
Beautiful. And stop the music. So today we are speaking about how to activate our period power, which is really, really exciting, as I really believe that accessing your period power and reconnecting to what it means to be a woman all starts with the menstrual cycle. It all starts with what is your relationship to your period? What is your relationship to your bleed? And how can we deepen this relationship and understanding of this isn't just a physical process, but this is a really deep spiritual, emotional, cathartic experience that we cycle through every single month. And so every single new day of the month, we are completely different because we have completely different hormones. And that also means like every single month we are completely different because we've gained the wisdom and experience of a whole nother month of life. And so when we cycle consciously and we are connected to our bodies in this way, we start to receive messages, we start to receive guidance from our womb herself. We start to really understand the intercorrelated relationships between our lifestyle and the symptoms that show up in our period. And so when we have a difficult period or a heavy bleed or a painful bleed, or we experience a lot of PMS or tiredness, we can directly correlate that to how have we been taking care of ourselves? How have we been prioritizing self-care? How have we been connecting to our womb and our feminine energy on a regular daily basis? Or have we just been, steamrolling ahead, hustling, go, go, go on this very masculine driven timeline that, we are very pressured by society to automatically fall into, because that's essentially what we've been conditioned into, right? And so we're always going to, unfortunately, naturally fall back into the automatic programming and conditioning that we've received growing up. And so that's why this education is so fundamental, because it literally gets us to reorientate our relationship to the very essence of who we are, to the very essence of what it means to be in a body that has a womb, to be in a body that bleeds, to be a woman, right? And so these are very fundamental questions that we get to discover and unpack and flow with in this really beautiful way. So, welcome for those of you that are live and for those of you joining on the replay. I would love to know, what is your intentions for being here? Think about what made you sign up. What was that desire? Where did it come from? What are those sensations in your body? Because that desire for healing, that desire for change, that desire for growth, that desire for deeper self-intimacy with your body, with your blood, with your cycle, that desire is so holy. That desire is so sacred. And so honoring, like really just right now, honoring that desire. Maybe you want to place your hands on your heart and really just be like, wow, like that desire for me wanting to deepen my connection to myself. That is like the most sacred desire that you could ever have. And the journey that that desire gets to take you on is absolutely profound if we have the courage to walk forward on that path into the unknown. So today's structure, I'm going to speak to you about my story, my why and my vision and my mission for Sync and Flow. What is period power? I'm going to introduce you to the 6 principles of womb healing, and then 5 steps to activate your period power. And then we're going to do a meditation practice at the end. So my story is one from pain to power. My story is not easy. It's not light. It's not fluffy. It is pretty dark. It is pretty traumatic, and it is pretty intense. And so all of that has led me to who I am today. I was put on the pill at age 15 for bad skin and PMS. Well, actually, let me backtrack a bit, because before I was put on the pill, I remember I started my period at the age of 13, and my period was very irregular. I had very bad mood swings. I had very bad PMS. I really would suffer in my day-to-day life. I couldn't concentrate at school. I would get really low marks. I just wasn't functioning. I wasn't happy. And I also remember one day I went to my friend's house after school and I was on my period, and I didn't have any more pads. And I remember then I had to take the bus home from her house, and I was standing on the bus, and a woman, an old gogo, a woman comes up to me, an old black woman. She comes up to me and she comes and says to me like, "Oh dear, you have some stains, you have some blood stains on your dress. Like, here, take your jersey, take your blazer and tie it around your waist, because God forbid anyone sees these stains. Like, you must hide it. You must secret, like, and it was very much this attitude of like, you have to hide your blood stains that are on your dress." And so this was the first societal cultural conditioning that I experienced from the external world towards me around my period, and really allowed me to see what was the prevailing societal norms around periods, and this really fundamental basic thing that happens to us. Having a menstrual cycle is as basic as making a poo or making a wee. It's literally so basic, but it's so tabooed and it's so shamed. And so we're going to get into why that is a little bit later. So yeah, then I was put on the pill at age 15 for bad skin and PMS. And from ages 15 to 22, I was on the pill for 7 years. I became depressed, anxious, manic, and disassociated. My mental health was so bad. I was offered antidepressants many times, but I always said no. And then in 2019, I went for a regular gynae checkup, and she discovered a 5 by 5 centimeter cyst on my left ovary, which had to be operated immediately. I literally couldn't believe it. I was so shocked. I was so like, what the fuck? I thought I was a healthy woman, And then later on, I realized and found out that the pill had been the cause of the cyst, and that I was pretty lucky to have gone through this operation and come out the other side with not much physical side effects, because there was a time when the gynecologist even thought that the cyst may have been cancerous, and so that also could have been really scary. And so for 8 months post-op, I was falling into a deep, dark night of the soul. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was completely disconnected from myself. And all the childhood trauma that I had been ignoring was surfacing to be confronted and healed. In 2020, I finally came off the pill in January and went onto the copper IUD. In March 2020, I started my RAID 10 facilitator training and was able to initiate and activate into all of the wisdom that I guide women through in my containers and coaching programs and hold in my women's circles. And then 1 month later, I got my natural period back. Just 1 month through the practices and energetic embodiments that I was learning in this Red Tent program and that I teach my clients to this day. And so I later also learned that you can only get pregnant 6 days a month, and started to learn the fertility awareness method, which is a natural contraception method where you learn to track your cycle and observe your fertility biomarkers, which are things like your cervix position, your temperature, and your cervical mucus, which are all indicators of fertility. And so after I learned that, I removed my IUD because it was giving me so much pain during sex. I also later learned that the copper IUD can actually cause increased inflammation. And so it's not as innocent as we have been told. Even though it doesn't have hormones, it still has a effect on the body that can be potentially damaging. So the 6 principles of womb healing are: number 1, feel your emotions. Number 2, connect with your womb. Number 3 and 4 are the main focus of what we're going to be discussing today: living cyclically and embodying your bleed. And then number 5, healing your sexuality. Number 6, reclaiming your feminine energy. And so I kind of see all of these working on a spectrum. And so we can't jump straight to number 6 if we haven't even started with number 1, right? And so it's really important that we go in order along the steps from 1 to 2, 3, all the way to 6, because it helps this natural progression of the healing, of the embodiment, of our understanding and connection to our womb space. So this is really important. We can't expect to become like this wild sexual goddess and so like empowered in our feminine energy and like, so confident and all these things that we want. But it's like healing is a slow process. Healing is a gradual process. And to see where we've come from, we need to realize that like we've grown up in a very period and womb negative society. And so we can't expect to jump so far into ahead of the game when we haven't even covered the basics. And so, yeah, I've been doing this healing for about 4 years, and only in the last 2 years have I started to see like significant changes. So when we work with the womb, it's not an instant healing practice. It's not an instant gratification. It's a process. It's a dedication. It's, commitment to your self-care, commitment to connecting with your womb on a regular basis, commitment to honoring and living cyclically. And every single month, you get to practice again. You get to see what didn't work previously, and you get to really start to embody more and more and more what it means to have a cycle, what it means to be in connection to your womb space. And saying all of that, I mean, like I just spoke about in my story, when you are dedicated and you are doing these practices, things actually can shift a lot quicker than we realize. Like I was able to get my period back only 1 month after coming off the pill, after I initiated into these teachings. And because I was working with mentors, because I was working with healers and leaders and had guidance, I wasn't trying to figure it all out on my own. I had the support necessary. And so that is also a really important part of the healing journey, is realizing that we don't have to do it all alone. That era of healing is over. It's now time for us to come into community and realize that we are so much more powerful when we come together, when we join forces, and when we receive guidance and help from those more experienced than us. So here's a quick breakdown of womb healing and all the different branches of it, because it's a really broad topic and is connected to so many different aspects of self. We go to the menstrual cycle aspect, which is healing shame, healing trauma, healing physical symptoms such as period cramps, such as PMS, balancing our hormones naturally, cyclical living, and healing the witch wound, which is our fear of our own power. It is the fear of our own divine power as women. Then we go to feminine energy, and this is all about healing our relationship to the mother wound, which is the original wound that has separated humans from the earth, that has separated this deep connection, this deep archetypal connection of humans from their feminine energy. Also healing our relationship to our actual birth mother, looking at that, because that is often a very messy, painful, traumatic relationship, especially living in patriarchy. That is where, so much trauma comes from. Learning to reconnect back to the earth, source, mother, God, goddess. Generational healing. This is a huge part of healing our relationship to our womb space, because the womb is like a sponge, and all of our generational trauma is sitting in our womb space. And so that's why when we do this work, it's not just for us and for our material, superficial healing needs. It goes so, so much deeper. It goes, up to 12 generations behind us, up to 12 generations in front of us. That is how much trauma is sitting in our body at one time. And so they say when you do self-healing and you do deep shadow work and you heal your relationship to your womb, you can heal as many as 7 generations behind and 7 generations forward. And so that power is unexplainable, because if we can do this work, and embody into this now in our lifetime, think about how much trauma we are going to be taking away from our daughter, let alone our granddaughters, right? In my future, my daughters will never go through the same amount of pain and trauma that I went through, because I'm going to initiate them into the power of their menstrual cycle and the power of their womb space from the beginning, and I will make sure that they have this wisdom and they understand it on a deep level from the beginning so that they have this deep connection to themselves and they don't have to go through the pain of disconnection. And then finally, accessing our ancestral wisdom and our ancestral power. We think that we only have generational trauma, but once we've cleared the generational trauma and gotten that mud out the way, that's when we can swim into the clear waters and receive the generational wisdom, the generational power, the generational strength, the generational codes. And that is when things start to become really interesting because you start to access different states of consciousness. So then we heal our personal relationship to our divine feminine energy, about cultivating self-love, self-intimacy, learning to feel and release emotions fully, learning to surrender and receive, learning to rest, cyclical living, learning to heal our relationship to our life force, our sensuality, our womb power. The womb is like a battery of a car. If our battery is not powered up, if our battery has been disconnected, if the spark plugs have been disconnected from our battery, such as when we are, on birth control, then we are actually not operating at full capacity. We're not operating in our highest timeline. We're not operating at the most optimal levels of energy and life force and connection and self-love that we could be. And so there is always the possibility of deepening into more and more of this energy, the more we heal and go on our womb journey. And then it's related to the feminine wound of the sister wound. And this is healing relationships to other women, learning to trust in the collective feminine, healing relational dynamics, healing the competition, the jealousy, the need for masculine approval, all of these subverted things that women have really been pitted against each other since, the last like 500-600 years, really. And that was a purposeful tactic. I truly believe it. It started with the witch trials, in the 1400s, and it still pervades today because of the generational imprints, because of the way that women were betraying each other and ratting on each other and just creating this massive fracture in the psyches and souls of women and their relationships to each other. And then the sexual energy component, which is also a huge thing. And this is healing our relationship to shame in connection to our sexual energy, to sexual trauma, to sexual self-expression, learning to embrace our erotic power, sex magic and manifestation, learning to trust the masculine again. These are all themes that we can explore in our relationship, in our sexual relationship to ourselves, to our womb, to our sensuality. And then there's many other branches that are not included on this graph that are related to fertility, to pregnancy, to menopause. There's different phases of life, to motherhood, right? And so most of us aren't in that bracket, but just know that it really goes so much bigger. This topic of womb healing is so foundational, it is so broad, and it's so important that we do not ignore our womb and we take the healing process of our womb very seriously, because healing our relationship to our womb, in my experience, in my own healing journey, it really has like a domino effect that heals everything else that I struggle with, confidence, mental health, hormones, this, that, so many things. You really can't believe it. So my why is to help women connect to the power of their wombs so that they can understand their female biology and experience symptom-free menstrual cycles, sexual liberation, and personal empowerment. This is what keeps me going. This is what wakes me up every single day, because this is why I am so passionate about this work, because this work has truly changed my life. It has given me an entirely new perspective on what it means to be a woman, what it means to have been born in the body of a body that has a womb, that has breasts, that feels so deeply, that is emotional, that's sensitive. Like, thank goddess I was born in the body of a woman. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but thank goddess I was, because I wouldn't want to have it any other way, truly. And so my mission and why I started my brand, Sync and Flow, is to empower you to heal your relationship to your womb by reconnecting to the power of your menstrual cycle, sexual energy, and your intuitive body wisdom through embodiment rituals and practices. This healing work is a practice. It's not something you just do once and then you're sorted. No, it is the continual devotion and dedication to showing up again and again and again, getting on your mat, prioritizing cyclical living, prioritizing being in connection to your body on a daily basis, and listening to your body, consulting your body as your oracle. And so my vision is to redefine your relationship to your womb, to your menstrual cycle, and to your sexual energy, and to what it means to be a woman. Because imagine a world where women are taught about their hormones and reproductive health and the sacredness of their womb and sensitivity of the female body. Imagine a world where women aren't gaslit by the doctors and gynaes. Imagine a world where women aren't told that the only way to fix their period problems is to go on hormonal birth control. Imagine a world where women aren't burning themselves out trying to live like men. Imagine a world where women feel empowered in their sensuality and sexuality. Imagine a world where women have the courage to speak their boundaries and their truths. Imagine a world where we worshipped the altar of our feminine body and worshipped at the altar of our menstrual cycle. So when you heal your relationship to your period, you heal a fundamental connection to your feminine energy that then heals your entire reality. Healing your relationship to your period is the first step on the feminine embodiment healing journey. It really starts here. As you can see, this is a picture of me in 2020. I think it was September 2020, so exactly 4 years ago, little baby me. And this is when I first started to bleed naturally, and I started to really experience the depth and power of bleeding. And so this is why I put a dot of my blood on my third eye, to honor the sacredness that is bleeding, to honor the psychic empowered wisdom that we gain when we cycle consciously. And so what is period power? Maybe you guys want to just drop in the chat. When I say period power, what do you think of? What does this remind you of? What feelings, sensations come up in your body when I say period power? I'm going to give you my definition of period power just now, but I would love to hear from you. When I say period power, what comes up for you? How do you feel? Can be anything. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be confusion, it can be chaos. Whatever it is for you, that is your unique experience, and that is totally okay. Emma says, my grandmother's creative energy, life elixir, new life, death. Beautiful. Fully connected with my life force energy. Beautiful, Isabella. Yeah, these are exactly what I also think of, because the journey of being connected to our period power is the journey of being in connection to the energy of life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth. And instead of feeling fearful or misunderstood in that, we get to embrace that. We get to realize that to be a woman is to constantly be cycling through these phases, through the life, through the death, and through the rebirth. And so there is never, to be a woman isn't to be static, right? We are so much more. And so this is why when we don't bleed, when we're on hormonal birth control, we become stagnant, we become lethargic, we become slowed down, we become confused, we become, unmotivated, not driven in our purpose, in our passion, because we aren't in that cycle. And so when we are in deep connection to our period and to, oh, I spelled period wrong, lol. Never mind that. We get to be constantly cycling, and realize that nothing is forever, everything is temporary. And so the parts of yourself that are no longer necessary and are no longer serving you, maybe the anxious parts, the depressed parts, the self-doubt, the victim complexes, the parts of you that are keeping you small, the fearful parts of you, right? The parts of you that are scared to do new things or to step into the unknown, to step onto that path. Those parts of us, they get to fall away, they get to die, because we get to confront them in a very tangible, real way through the cycle and work with them through the cycle. So, period power to me is a concept that emphasizes understanding and embracing the menstrual cycle's natural rhythms to harness its potential for better health, well-being, and empowerment. It involves recognizing the different phases of the menstrual cycle: menstruation, the follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal, and how each phase can affect energy, mood, and productivity. By becoming attuned to these cycles, individuals can optimize self-care, nutrition, exercise, and even work or creativity to align with your body's natural flow. The idea of period power also encourages breaking down taboos around menstruation, promoting menstrual health education, and supporting practices that balance hormones and improve overall well-being. This approach can help those who menstruate to connect more deeply with their bodies, understand their unique needs, and use this awareness to live in more harmony with yourself and your natural rhythms. Period power is the antidote to menstrual shame and stigma. It challenges societal taboos and negative perceptions around menstruation, promoting pride, openness, and acceptance instead. It is the antidote to disconnection from the body. By fostering a deep understanding and connection with the menstrual cycle, period power encourages us to tune into our bodies and natural rhythms rather than feeling disconnected or alienated from them. Period power is the antidote to hormonal imbalance and poor menstrual health. Through education on nutrition, lifestyle changes, and holistic practices, we can address issues like PMS, period pains, and hormonal imbalances to promote better overall health. It is the antidote to a lack of awareness and education. It encounters the lack of knowledge around menstrual health by providing accessible, empowering information that helps people understand their bodies, cycles, and how to support them. It is the antidote to burnout and misaligned productivity, because by living cyclically, we align our activities, our work, and our self-care with the natural flow and ebbs of our menstrual cycle, which helps to prevent burnout and promote sustainable and regenerative productivity and well-being. And it is also the antidote to the suppression of feminine wisdom and intuition. It encourages reclaiming feminine wisdom, intuition, and cyclical living, embracing the unique strengths and insights that come with each phase of the cycle. So period power really, it transforms so much of our relationship to ourselves. And it is literally just the beginning of this journey. And that is what's so exciting. So I just want to tell you quickly about my client, Jana, who was working with me in 2022. She had just come off the pill and she was needing help with getting her period back after coming off the pill. And so I was able to, through regular weekly coaching sessions, guide her into relationship with her womb story, with her past, confronting and healing her trauma, her relationship to her femininity, and really starting to embody the energetic practices and the lifestyle changes that she needed to make in order to become more aligned with her womb and with her menstrual cycle. I gave her the tools in the form of physical practices, movement, exercise, but as well as supplements and gut health support and mental health support and all these different herbs that we can use along our journey. Then with the mental health, I gave her, new self concepts. The mental mindset work is also a huge part of this work, and learning to recondition our brain to be aware that, okay, we are in a body that bleeds. I am in a body that has a menstrual cycle. I do need to now change my perception of myself and how I live my life so that it can align with being a cyclical woman. And then in the emotional health, because I work on a multidimensional level, always addressing every single aspect of health, because when it comes to womb healing, every single aspect is so important. It's not just a one size fits all. We have to look at the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So with the emotional health, I gave her recordings, meditations, practices, journal prompts, ways that she could deeply connect to her body and learn to love herself in this new way, because it is a whole new way of life. It is a whole new understanding. And then finally, the spiritual health, I gave her, meditations, practices, things that she could do to really contemplate and reflect on how had she been living her life, how does she want to live her life going forward, and how can we embody and understand that it's all about the emotional, spiritual connection that we have to ourselves as women, that we have to our womb, because the womb, first and foremost, is an emotional, spiritual organ. So the 5 steps to activating your period power. Oh, and then I forgot to say, Jana was actually able to get her period back 6 weeks later. So exciting. So exciting. She got her period back 6 weeks later after coming off the pill, after being so dedicated to doing this work with me. So that just goes to show that these practices and the work that I teach really is so supportive, and it actually works. It actually shows really radical changes in your health, in your relationship to yourself, if you are dedicated and devoted to your healing journey. So 5 steps to activating your period power. Number 1, cycle awareness. Number 2, self-care practices. Number 3, emotional and spiritual connection. Number 4, empowerment and advocacy. And number 5, reclaiming creative and sexual energy. Let's go into it. So cyclical awareness, understanding the different phases of the menstrual cycle and how they affect energy levels, mood, and physical health. self-care practices, implementing lifestyle changes and self-care practices tailored to the needs of each phase of the cycle. This is really, really important. And this might include specific nutrition, exercise, or rest strategies. Emotional and spiritual connection, viewing menstruation as a time for reflection, connection with one's inner self, and spiritual growth. Some people use this time for practices like meditation, journaling, or rituals. Empowerment and advocacy, encouraging a positive, stigma-free view of menstruation and advocating for menstrual health and rights. This includes challenging taboos and misinformation about periods. This is a huge one. There is so much misinformation being spread around the menstrual cycle. And unfortunately, a lot of that misinformation is coming directly from doctors saying, oh, you don't need a period. Oh, just take this pill. It won't do anything to you. Oh, just take this IUD, get this IUD in. You know, you don't really need a period. These hormones are fine. They're not going to hurt you. They're just going to stay localized in your uterus. No, unfortunately, we cannot rely on doctors and gynecologists to give us the sufficient information that we need around our periods and our womb health. And so this is why menstrual cycle educators and womb healers like me exist, because there is this huge gap in women's embodied understanding of their own bodies. And then reclaiming creative and sexual energy, recognizing the menstrual cycle as a source of potent creative and sexual energy. By embracing and honoring the cyclical nature of the body, one can harness this energy for personal expression, creativity, and cultivating deeper intimacy and pleasure. This approach encourages using the cycle as a guide for when to rest, create, or engage more deeply in relationships, promoting a balanced and empowered life. So let's get into it. Cyclical awareness. This is a huge part. This is actually the foundational part of reconnecting with our menstrual cycle. As you guys may know, this is the female hormone cycle, which is typically around 28 to 35 days. And as you can see, we have this beautiful wave, like flow of hormones from menstruation all the way to the luteal. And so in menstruation, we start off with pretty much 0 hormones. And then in the follicular phase, we have estrogen starting to increase, as well as follicular stimulating hormone. And then as we get closer to ovulation, which is around halfway of our cycle, and this is when luteinizing hormone starts to increase. And just after ovulation, we see a dip in estrogen. And then this is when progesterone starts to take over. So estrogen being the dominant hormone in the first half of the cycle, and progesterone being the dominant hormone in the second half of the cycle. And so as you can see, this is an example, and I love showing these graphs because it's super interesting to see. Here you can see on the left what the natural cycle looks like in comparison to what happens when you're on birth control. And so as you can see with birth control, there is little to no wave as shown above. There's this massive like wave, and then this hormone, and then this one takes over. But in the birth control cycle, as you can see, there's really like, there's no change. It's pretty neutral. It's pretty constant the whole way. And then here on the right-hand side, you can see what the male hormonal cycle looks like, because they have a 24-hour cycle, whereas us women, we have a 28-day cycle on average. And as you can see, the birth control cycle and the male hormonal cycle, they look more similar to each other than anything else. And so, yeah, this is why it's so important for us to realize, like, what are these things doing to us? What is birth control doing to us? How is it disconnecting us from our bodies? And so we can make informed decisions around our health going forward. And then here you can see this is a beautiful cyclical living graph. If you would like to have a digital copy of this, you can get it from my website shop for only €8 or 160 Rand. And it's really beautiful. You can print this out and you can put it next to your bed and you can look at it every single day and really just see, okay, where am I in my cycle? Am I in my spring? Am I in my summer? Am I in my autumn? Or am I in my winter? And how can I deepen into my connection to myself by following the energy of the phase? I'm not going to go too in depth into this because I have done many other workshops on cyclical living. So if you want to dive more into that, you can go check those out on my YouTube channel. Sync and Flow. But yeah, this is just like an overview. And then once you start to understand your body's needs, you can then apply this overview to your own life. And then you can just experiment and play around and see what works, what doesn't work, and how can I, make this experience completely unique. It's not about following the structured, rigid, you have to do this if you are in your follicular phase. No, it's about looking what is the recommended energetic focus for that phase, and then applying that to your own life and really like asking yourself, like, what does my spirit want me to do today? What do I need? What does my energy want? How can I enhance this in the best way possible? Listening to your heart and to your spirit. And so really the general overview is that what I like to give is the spring and the summer are more this external focus where we are pushing our energy externally, we're productive. It's the more typically masculine energy half of the cycle. Energy is focused outwards. And these are when our highest energy we can do, like hit greatest amount of output. And then in the second half of the cycle, this is our more inwards focused part. This is the more typically feminine energy. This is when we do low impact, low productivity, low, expectations of our external world. Obviously, your productivity doesn't have to be lower, but you get to engage with your productivity in a new way. And so it's not this go, 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 hustle, hustle, get it done energy. You get to engage with your productivity in a much gentler way, much softer way, much more refined, reflected, and slowed down way, And so this is actually when we get to truly reap the benefits of cyclical living, because I've found in my personal experience that the more I rest in my menstruation, the more energy I'm going to have for the rest of my cycle. And so we get to play with the balance of resting and working, resting and outputting, this inwards, outwards balance of our energy and of our attention that we get to experiment with. So number 2, self-care practices, step 2 to reclaiming your period power. Self-care practices are so essential, so essential, because if you're not doing self-care as a woman, you're constantly going to be walking around life with an empty cup. Because if you're not filling up your own cup, who will, right? And so if we are not filling up our own cup, this means that we are going about our lives seeking our cup to be filled from the external. And this means that we're constantly seeking that external validation, seeking that external need for support, for love, for attention, for validation, for security, for emotional regulation, right? We're constantly looking to the outside. And so this is why self-care is so revolutionary, because it allows us to become self-sourced. We rely on our own heart, mind, body, and soul to be the sole provider for our lives. And so when we can fill ourselves up on this deep level, we go around life with a full cup and we no longer seek this external validation. We no longer need anything from anyone or anything. So it doesn't matter if you get rejected. It doesn't matter if someone says no. It doesn't matter if you have a shit day. It doesn't matter if, whatever the external circumstances are, because nothing external can fuck with your deep, nourished, full self-care cup, because that is independent from the external circumstances. And in this way, we get to become so much more present, so much more aligned with, like, I am me and I am powerful on my own, and nothing can fuck with me, nothing can hurt me, nothing can, really nothing can damage me. Like, yes, some things may knock me over a little bit or may make me stumble a little bit, but they're not going to kill me. It's not going to destroy me, because I have myself and I love myself and I empower myself first and foremost. I've got myself. And so you don't need anything from anyone or anything, you know? And then once we have that, um then we can start to go into relationships with less of like a needy energy and more of a I would like. It would enhance my life. It would, really just add value rather than being this like be all or end all. And that is super, super empowering. We can also look here at the cyclical living graph, for the different self-care practices in each phase. This would be for the spring, it would be around like dancing, yoga, hiking, cardio, eating, making yourself beautiful meals. Ovulation, it would be yeah, doing hits, power yoga, self-pleasuring. Again, making yourself beautiful food. That is a powerful, powerful self-care practice. In the luteal, it might be, going on light walks, stretching, going to spend time on the beach alone, reflecting, journaling. And then in menstruation, it would look like, napping, self-connection, journaling, meditating, right? So uh, the self-care components of being in a woman's body is really, really huge. Because if you're not looking after yourself, who else will, right? And so we get to take back agency. We get to become the parents that we never had. We get to become the mother that we wished we had. We get to reparent our inner child through the ways in which we take care of ourselves. We get to implement healthy boundaries around our lives. We get to implement healthy practices. We get to cook ourselves those nourishing meals. We get to, say no when we want to, and get to fully embrace our own needs. Because when we practice self-care, we get to really come home to like, what are the deep needs of my body and how can I live in more alignment with those needs? And so it really empowers us to be what I like to call empoweredly selfish, putting yourself first, knowing that your self-care comes before anything else. And that is like a rule. If you're not putting yourself first, no one else is going to, right? If you're not like treating yourself like a goddess, how do you expect men to? If you're not like giving yourself everything that you so deeply desire from the world around you, how do you ever expect to receive that? Because we teach ourselves how to receive it on that deep level first. Then we connect to the emotional and spiritual connection of having a cycle. What does that even mean? Well, like I said, the womb is an emotional, spiritual organ. It has an emotional, spiritual vibration. It is so powerful. The womb is literally a portal between worlds. The womb is a portal between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. As women, we have been blessed by the Creator to be the bridge between the worlds. We have been given this deep responsibility and power to carry unborn spirits through our body and into this realm, into this world. And that is so powerful. That is such a sacred and holy responsibility. And we get to anchor in that responsibility. We get to anchor in that power and know that we should not take our womb for granted. We should not take being a woman for granted because, yes, it has its struggles. Yes, we don't live in a society that honors this. But through us healing these relationships and doing all of this work and this womb healing and this menstrual cycle healing, we get to teach others about this too. We get to teach our partners. We get to teach those in our lives, like, hey, I'm not just a woman. Like, I am a woman. I deserve respect. I hold this power, you know. I hold this portal between my legs, and you better respect me because, like, there is no other way. We live in a world that is forgotten where they came from. Every single person on this planet comes from the womb of a woman, but yet we treat our women as if that weren't so, right? And so we need to remind everyone, we need to remind the men as well, that to have a womb is sacred, and they need to understand the sacredness of this, the sacredness of the cycle, the sacredness of our blood. And we get to teach them through our own lived experience. We get to teach them through our own healing journey. And that also is such powerful, sacred work. When you can speak to men around the power of your period from an embodied place, this is deep work, and we shouldn't just be having these conversations lightly with people. We should make sure that they are, in a spiritual mature place, emotionally mature place to be able to receive this information, to be able to learn, that are they willing? Are they wanting to know more? Are they curious, And so it's also up to us as the individual to judge if the person who we're about to speak to is emotionally ready and mature enough to receive this wisdom. There's also the emotional and spiritual connection that we have to this part of our body. We can truly receive so much guidance from our womb space. So when we're bleeding, our root from our crown to our root chakra is completely open. It's called this vertical state of alignment. And so if we sit in meditation and we allow ourselves to get quiet and still when we menstruate, we can receive downloads, we can receive messages from spirit, from source, from the universe. We can resolve conflicts, we can resolve things that we're confused about by simply just putting it out there, by asking, by allowing ourselves, opening up ourselves to receive higher wisdom. Because our womb is also connected to the great cosmic womb as well as the womb of the earth, right? And so we really hold these two polarities. We hold the womb, the earth below us and the cosmos above us. And then in the middle is us there holding this connection between heaven and earth. And really, when we learn to cycle consciously and are more lucid, more embodied, more connected to the process, we can actually just have such a greater trust in God, in Goddess, in Source, in this higher power, whatever you want to call it, the universe, whatever, you know. We have this greater power because we know that that great power is living inside our wombs. We literally perceive the world through our wombs. Who was it now? Hippocrates, who was the father of modern medicine, he said that the womb is like an animal within an animal. I truly believe that the womb has her own consciousness. She has her own needs. She has her own consciousness, and we can connect to that consciousness through healing, through meditation, through practice, through embodiment, and through the rituals and processes I take you through in my coaching containers and group programs. And so the consciousness of the womb, she hates to be ignored. She doesn't want to be ignored anymore. She has been ignored for thousands and thousands of years. And so this is why we experience PMS, cramps, womb ailments, whatever it is, you know, this is why we are experiencing endometriosis, PCOS, all of these problems, because as a collective society, we have forgotten what it means to be in connection to the womb. We have forgotten that there is a powerful consciousness living inside our bodies that cannot be understood with the mind. This goes beyond understandings of the logic, of the rational. This is, we're talking about the transcendental, we're talking about the spiritual, we're talking about the cycles of the life, the death, and rebirth. This is the pinnacle of this emotional spiritual connection, the life, death, rebirth cycles. We can also use our womb, we use our use our cycle to heal trauma. Like I said, we can work with our cycle to move through the phases of life, death, rebirth with our trauma and with everything that is coming up for us, as we can work with, you know, our trauma is here, it's present, but can I give way for my trauma to be let go, to be shed through the cycle with my blood? Can I let go and set those intentions and release my trauma, so that I can be reborn as a new version of myself that isn't held back by my trauma, that isn't a victim of my trauma anymore, that doesn't feel the effects of my trauma on a daily basis, grinding into my brain, preventing me from being the most empowered, confident version of myself. And so we can use the menstrual cycle in this multidimensional way to address issues, to bring them up, to work with them in a cyclical nature. You know, the language of the feminine, and this is also to do with this emotional spiritual connection, is through the spiral. It is through the sacred spiral. As you can see, I have this beautiful necklace. And so the psyche of the feminine, the energy of the feminine, we don't move in a horizontal line or linear time. We move through spiralic time. We move through the spirals, you know, and so as we move in the spirals and circles. And so the spiral is just the 3D version of the circle. And so we come back, we have an issue and we heal it and resolve it. And then we later on in life. So it goes like this, so spiraling up like this. And so then a little bit later, we may come back up at that same point, but we're now, a little level higher. And so we're dealing with the same issue, but we're approaching it from a more mature, more empowered, more wise viewpoint so that we can integrate it on a deeper level and extract the lessons from that on a deeper level. And then number 4, empowerment and advocacy. So this image might freak some of you out. I'm not saying you should put blood on your face, but I'm suggesting it because if there's one way to confront your shame, your disgust, your trauma, your patriarchal conditioning, if there's one way to do that, this is it, really. Like, there is so much sitting below the surface. So on the surface, we may be like, oh, like, I'm fine with blood, like, I don't mind, like, I love my period, or I love my body, or I don't care, blah blah blah. But below the surface, that chunk of the iceberg that's sitting underneath the water that we cannot see, in our subconscious, there is still so much programming. There's still so much fear, disgust, disconnection, shame, guilt. And all of this, it's not our burden to bear, but it is our burden to transmute, to alchemize, to let go, to heal, and to do shadow work around this societal stigma, around this societal shame and taboo that was placed on us from a very young age. And so the number one way to do that is to work with your blood, is to engage with it physically, tactilely, touch it, smell it. If putting it all over your face is too intense, maybe put like a dot on your third eye, put a dot on your throat, on your heart chakra, on your sacral chakra. Work with it, engage with it. Not to mention that menstrual blood is packed full of stem cells. This blood was literally going to sustain life. And so it's not just like your average blood, like you cut yourself. No, this blood is like times 100 potent. It has magical powers. You can work with it in ritual. We can work with it in manifestation. It really is amazing. It helps to clear acne and scars because the stem cells in the blood can heal your skin on such a deep level. We can also collect our blood and give it back to the earth, dilute it with water and water our pot plants, give it to the ocean, put it in the rivers, yeah, and put it in our garden. And that's also going to connect us deeper to Mother Earth, to Gaia. We can put prayers into our blood, we can set intentions, we can use it for manifestation. So there's so much we can do with our blood. And then, yeah, becoming empowered in our blood, not being afraid to talk about it, not being afraid to tell people I'm on my period, not being afraid to have those conversations, at a dinner party, in public, at the mall, at, whatever, on public transport, wherever you are, like, not being afraid to, like, oh no, I can't talk about this now because, it's not whatever. Like, no, like, you can talk about it. It's a natural process. It's a beautiful process. And the more we talk about it, and the more we advocate for menstrual health and menstrual rights, the more we can become empowered and just create a more menstrual supportive society, right? Like I said, like, not just women need to be spreading this information, but men too also need to know how to understand the menstrual cycle and how to understand these processes that we go through on a regular basis. And so we can really initiate other people into this depth of understanding through our own healing journey. And just realize that Yeah, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, menstruating is a beautiful and natural process. It is just as natural as going to the bathroom. It is just as natural as making a poo, making a pee. There isn't, why do we hold so much shame, right? And so this is what we get to unpack, and we get to be menstrual cycle advocates. We get to share this wisdom, this empowerment, this joy. Like, I now celebrate the fact that I have a menstrual cycle. I know I love to bleed. I love to experience this because it allows me for a multidimensional experience of being a woman. I'm not just neutral and I'm the same every single day. Like, no, I get to fluctuate and I get to change. And sometimes I'm more energized and social and happy and excited. And sometimes I'm more emotional and I'm slower and I need more gentleness and I need more intimacy and connection, right? So there is so much empowerment that can come from a deep, reverent connection? Can we live in reverence with our, can we live in reverence for our menstrual cycle? And reverence means, it's like a spiritual word for living in deep, deep respect for this. Emma says, it seems like we are conditioned to be ashamed of our most natural human activities, sex, bleeding, and going to the toilet. Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck is up with that? Like, what the fuck? It doesn't make sense. And so that's why I truly believe that, like, all of this conditioning and shame has been placed on us on purpose to suppress us, to disconnect us from our humanity. Because if there's something that connects us all, it's our ability to bleed. It's our ability to feel pleasure. It's our ability to be human, right? And so being in connection to your menstrual cycle deepens your connection to your own humanity. It goes that deep. It is that fundamental. And so shame is actually something, it's not an organic human emotion. Shame has to be learned. Shame has to be placed on us from the outside in. And then we internalize it and digest it and make it our own. But, shame, it's not an organic human emotion. Yes, fear is a natural, organic human emotion. Whatever, fear and these other emotions, those are natural, jealousy, whatever. But shame, it's not natural. We don't naturally have shame. Um, and so if shame can be learned, it can also be unlearned. And so a huge part of the healing journey is this process of unlearning that we have to do, and deconditioning that we first have to start with before we can start to heal and create new beliefs and new ways of living. And then finally, reclaiming our creative and our sexual energy. And so this is a beautiful image of a woman who uses her period blood to paint with. I myself have also done this in the past, and this is another really beautiful ritual because being a woman and having a cycle is all about making life more ritualistic. We get to engage with life in this really deep, emotional, spiritual, intentional way. And therefore, we get to reclaim the fact that we are creative beings at our core. We get to create the meaning of our lives. We get to decide how our lives want to go. It's not about following a path that was predetermined and set out for us. No, it's about realizing that, like, we have the power and the agency and the sovereignty to make our lives whatever we decide them to be. We get to be embodied in our creativity and realize that we are master manifestors. We are creative beings at our core, and we get to decide. If you don't like it, change it. If you don't want to live like that anymore, decide something else. Because guess what? If you're not changing it, you're choosing it. And so that is a really hard to swallow pill. If you're not changing it, you're choosing it. And so we have to realize, like, we have been so programmed to be attached to these old ways of being, to these patriarchal understandings, to these perceptions of what it means to be a woman through our own lens of self. And so we have to reconfigure our belief systems and our concepts of self, our concepts of what it means to be a woman, what it means to have a womb, what it means to, yeah, live in a body that cycles. And so we get to reclaim our creative energy. We get to reconfigure our lives. We get to create a whole new version of self. And we get to, yeah, like the more we engage with our menstrual cycle, the more embodied we become with it, the more cyclical we live, the more energy, life force energy, sexual energy, creative energy, life force energy, it's all the same thing. And so, like I said, the more you live cyclically, the more you live in alignment and really engage with everything I've spoken about in this workshop, the more creative, sexual, life force energy you free up in your body. So you actually have more energy, you have more output, you are more excited, you are less consumed by the drainage of energy, because when we hold trauma in our bodies, that drains our life force energy. When we're anxious, that drains our life force energy. When we're depressed, that drains our life force energy. When we're not bleeding and when we're not cycling, when we're on the pill or birth control, that drains our life force energy, because the only way for life force energy to be generated is for it to continue in the self-sustaining motion, right? It's about the momentum. The momentum empowers itself. And so that's why when we first go on this journey and maybe we haven't bled in a while, maybe we're waiting for our periods to come back off hormonal birth control, we almost need to like jumpstart the car. We need to jumpstart the womb. We need to do a lot of very energetic, spiritual, emotional practices, engaging movement, sound, and breath. These are 3 tools that I work with very deeply in my containers: movement, sound, and breath, to engage the life force energy, to engage the sexual energy, and to bring it up. Okay, I heard today that the 2 mechanisms of healing and transformation are creative sexual energy and love. And so we need to have if we just have the love and the awareness, it's like, cool, we have that, but how do I make the change? So it's through this creative sexual energy that actually creates that momentum and creates the change, creates the action, brings things to the surface. Because a lot of the time, all of these wounds and traumas are sitting buried in our bodies, buried in our psyches. And so they're not gonna come to the surface unless we, you create energy for them to come. We have to, like I said, spark plug, jumpstart the car so that the engine can start going again, so that we can start cycling and flowing, and so things can start to come to the surface. And so every time you cycle consciously, it's actually good that things are coming to the surface. I remember in the first about 2 years of cycling consciously, it was really intense. Like, it was a lot was coming to the surface because I hadn't bled in 7 years. And so there was so much stagnant stuff that hadn't been processing, right? And so there's a lot of backlog that happens, and things are coming up, and it can be a bit hard and a bit challenging. Um, and so that can almost sometimes, demotivate us. But I don't want you to be demotivated, because that's why it's so empowering to work with like a coach and with a healer like myself, is because you don't allow yourself to fall into that demotivated energy, because it can be intense and demotivating when you're dealing with traumas that you didn't even know you had, because they've just been sitting below the surface for so long, and now suddenly you're having to deal with like all the shit that you've been suppressing since you were 13 years old, and that can be really, really intense. And so that's why working with a healer, it's just having that support system, having a therapist, having someone who's on your side and who you can rely on. It just adds that extra layer of support that is really needed when we are doing this deep shadow work. And then I just want to show you guys this beautiful Instagram page. It's called the Menstrual Art Movement. It was started by a woman called Jasmine Alicia Carter, and she encourages women to send her their menstrual art. And she showcases not only her own, but also women from all around the world, art that they've created with their menstrual blood. I'm just going to read to you here what it says, because it's so beautiful. I feel that painting with my blood is being part of a gigantic river that is slowly cracking open the man-made walls that have been constructed to keep this mighty force in check, to prevent this river from flowing full force as it always has been one with the Mother Earth's veins. Every painting is moving myself deeper to my essential, unique path, and perhaps opening up small streams for other women to start gently looking at their own blood, questioning, exploring, inviting to curiously to look, touch, smell, and taste who they are. To invite all sisters to remember that you are not separate from your blood. You are not separate from your womb. You are not separate from your yoni. You are not separate from your breast. You are not separate from your body. Your blood is not a dirty waste product. Sisters, you are not dirty when you bleed. Girls, you are not dirty when you bleed. Womb sisters, you are not dirty. You are creators, caretakers of this earth, of one another, and vessels of life. Wow. So beautiful. So, so beautiful. That poem really, yeah, gave me full body shivers. I love it. I love, love, love. And then quickly, some other tools that I use besides all of the understanding that we've been working with today. I love working with yoni steaming. Here, I actually have some herbs here. And yoni steaming is a really amazing practice. You can get some herbs if you want guidance on which herbs you need. Otherwise, you can also just buy pre-packed yoni steam herbs. If you are in Cape Town or South Africa, Garden Wisdom on Instagram is amazing, and she sells at a few different health shops. I usually get from Nude Foods. But yeah, go to most health shops should have like pre-packed yoni steam bundles. And then you basically boil them in a pot. You make like a tea. Maybe you can let it sit for a little bit to get the water super concentrated. And then, yeah, heat it up again. Make sure it's boiling. And then take it off the stove. And then you can crouch over it. You can do a child's pose over the steaming pot. Then you want to wrap lots of blankets around your legs. You kind of make like a little tent. And then you obviously take your panties off and you let the steam, which is packed full of the medicinal properties of the herbs, go up your vagina and up your canal. And it's really relaxes your womb space. It helps to relieve tension, helps to relieve cramps. It helps to soften your pelvic floor muscles. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful practice. And then obviously the herbs themselves also have medicinal properties such as anti-inflammation, such as increasing blood flow, such as, all these beautiful things. Then another tool that I use, and I literally give this to all my clients, is the heart womb meditation. This meditation you can find for free on my YouTube channel. And it is like the foundation of everything I teach. It teaches you to connect your conscious mind to your subconscious body, to your heart chakra, to develop self-love and to send that love into your womb to create this conscious connection with your womb. And so the more you do this meditation, the more tapped into your body and into your womb you become. And therefore, you actually create this communication highway between your womb and your mind. And so the more you do this meditation, the more your womb will start to trust you and feel like it can rely on you. And therefore, that's when you're going to start to receive the messages and the downloads and the empowerment and the pleasure. And then I spoke about this a little bit earlier, trauma healing with your cycle, using the different phases of the cycle to address trauma. I made a podcast episode on that if you want to learn more. Sync and Flow, the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Yeah, trauma healing with the menstrual cycle is really powerful. And then we can release our blood. When we're releasing our blood, when we're bleeding, we can use that as the time to like consciously work with like the shadows. The menstrual cycle, the winter, is the best time to do shadow work. And the luteal phase, actually, the second half of the cycle, autumn and winter, is the best time to do shadow work because that's when the veil between worlds, the veils between the subconscious and the conscious, the physical and the emotional, the mental and the spiritual, they become very, very thin. And then when you bleed, the veil is pretty much non-existent. So it's an incredible time, and we can actually be productive in our healing work. So the first half of the cycle is productive for external work, and then the second half of the cycle is productive for internal work. Deep self-understanding, deep self-nourishment, deep self-shadow work. Shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. And if you have done shadow work, you probably need to do some more. Shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. Literally, that's the name of the game. I also call myself like a shadow work teacher because we're always doing shadow work. There's always more shadow work to do. But saying that, there does come a time like where I am now after being on this healing journey for about 5, 6 years now, where I've done, so much shadow work and I've healed all the backlog and the childhood trauma and the teenage years trauma and the early 20s trauma. Like now there does come a time where you can just like lean back and relax and allow yourself to reap the rewards of all the shadow work that you have done. Um, but I am still continuously doing shadow work. I'm always looking at my patterns, at my unconscious ways, at my tendencies, at my attachment styles, at my inner child's needs for validation, all these things, So the shadow work always continues throughout your life, but it does get easier once you get through that initial muddy, gunky, thick, heavy stuff. You have to clear that out the way. And the fastest way to do that is through conscious cycling, is through trauma healing with your menstrual cycle. Then I would just like to share another client that did one-to-one coaching with me in 2022 as well. And Kath needed help with her period cramps. She was experiencing really, really bad period cramps and mood swings. And yeah, we worked together for about 4 weeks. This container now is actually a 6-week container because I realized that the more time you have with this work, the better. The more time you engage with it, the better. The more time you give yourself to integrate, the better. And so what was a 4-week container is now a 6-week container. And so, yeah, Kath had an incredible time. It was her first time doing this kind of work. And I'll just read you what she wrote. She wrote, Josie's passion and love for sharing her knowledge is truly something special. She has a knack for making a room feel like a home, and in this home lies comfort, vulnerability, and safety. Amongst all the warm, beautiful light, Josie has helped shape a deeper connection on the journey of understanding my divine feminine, a path that has been blessed by her wisdom and intuition. So that was really beautiful, really, really beautiful. And now, sisters, it is time to turn off the brain and connect to the body, aka the womb. So I'm going to play some music and we're just going to meditate for 5 minutes. I invite you to, yeah, just get comfortable and just maybe you want to light a candle, maybe you want to light some incense. And I'm going to play some music. Can you? Hmm. Okay. So if we just want to close it down the eyes, can take some deep breaths in through the nose and out the mouth. Ah. 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 Really just allowing that audible exhale to drop you deeper into
Here
the
and now,
body.
before earth and sky, we stand. We feel the blessing of your infinite love in our bones,
We can
in our
place one hand
blood,
on the womb and one hand on
in
the
our
heart.
breath, in our hearts. We open our eyes to see beyond what we have seen before. We open our ears to hear what we could not hear before. Beyond limitation, beyond the beyond. We feel a new story emerging from ourselves and rippling out into our lucid bodies as waves of love remind us of who we really are. Dissolve us into what we have always meant to be. And the layers between us and who we are meant to be fade away. And suddenly we realize we are all that we dream we could be. To see without eyes, to walk without feet, and to fly without wings. This is my prayer for you.
And so just breathing into the space behind the hands, breathing into the body. Maybe you just want to rock gently from side to side or forwards and backwards or in like a gentle circle. whatever feels natural and organic, and just reflecting on where have you come from? What has been your womb story? What has been your journey with your womb, starting from the moment that you got your period, and really seeing that little girl, seeing her in your mind's eye and holding her in the deepest levels of love and compassion. Just having so much love and compassion for this version of yourself. And as you connect and breathe deeper and deeper, you see your life flash before your eyes. The first time you bled, first time you told someone about your period, the first time you had sex, the first time you started to realize that you were a woman and that you were different, that you were special. All these different experiences. Maybe there was some traumas, maybe there was some messiness, maybe there was arguments with mothers and sisters that hurt you on a deeper level. And just bringing all of that to the surface now, bringing all of that here and welcoming all of that pain, welcoming it here with loving embrace as we hold ourselves in such deep compassion. And we hold so much gratitude for ourselves for getting us to this point where we are right now. If it wasn't for your strength, your resilience, and your determination, you would not be here right now. Because the women in my world are spiritual warriors. I see you, goddess. You are a spiritual warrior. You've gotten through everything for a reason, but it does no longer have to define you. It's made you into the strong woman you are today, but it does no longer define you. So you can let it go and embrace this new chapter of being where you get to choose yourself first. You get to put your body first. Breathing deeply into the heart space and into the womb. Rubbing the center of the chest with the one hand and the womb with the other. Just feeling into these two spaces. Maybe bringing a smile to your lips and just showing gratitude for all that you are, for all that you've been through, because it hasn't been an easy journey. I know it hasn't been easy, but you made it. You are here now. You get to move forward with grace, love, and deep compassion. And now placing both hands on the womb, we're just going to breathe as deeply and slowly and gently as we can into the womb. Slow, gentle inhales, expanding the lower belly, and slow, gentle exhales out the nose, contracting the belly. Just feeling the space. What is here for you? The womb holds the codes of your life, of the lives that have come before you, all the women that have come before you, and all the women that shall come after you. All of it is here in this womb. And you have the power to become a cycle breaker for your family. You have the power to reclaim your truth, your agency, and heal the feminine suppression of your lineage. This is a sacred task. Are you ready? Are you ready to take on the sacred task of healing your womb? And you can say this out loud. I am ready to take on the sacred task of healing my womb. And just breathing deeply, breathing into the womb space, and just starting to envision a future version of yourself. Who is the version of yourself that has been dedicated to this work? See her in 6 months' time. See her in 1 year's time. See her in 5 years' time. How have you changed? How have you learned to love yourself on an even deeper level than ever before? What steps do you need to take to get to that version of self? The version of yourself that has no issues, that has no disconnection, that understands herself deeply, that listens to her body, that nourishes her body, that prioritizes her self-care. And now envision this version of yourself in 5 years in the future. If you don't do this work, what does that look like? Maybe she's the same as you are now, or maybe she's even worse off. Who knows? What is that version of self? And so gently breathing deeply into the womb and bringing this energy to a close with a big inhale through the nose and an exhale sigh out the mouth. Bringing the hands back to the heart. Gently opening your eyes. Coming back to the Zoom room. And I would love to hear what has been your biggest takeaway from this workshop. Would love for you to hear, would love for you to share it in the chat with us so we can all share our learnings. Maybe there were even some triggers, you know, and things that you realize, like, oh shit, like I didn't know this, or oh shit, like I haven't actually been taking that good care of myself. I haven't been prioritizing my womb health, you know? And that's also okay. That is totally, totally okay. But can we use those triggers to dive deeper into a commitment to our future self? If you're watching the replay, feel free to drop your biggest takeaways in the comments section below. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe it was just a reminder of what you already knew. Maybe all of this work is completely new to you, and that's totally cool and that's totally amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for signing up. Because the fact that you signed up, that shows so much. It really, really shows so much. Isabella says, I've realized that my natural reaction is to be ashamed of my period and fearful of it rather than feeling empowered by it. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that shadow work reflection. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you. And now you get to change that, right? You get to change that narrative. You get to say no more shame, no more pain, no more fearfulness. I get to learn to love my body now. I get to start this new journey of healing, because that journey is going to change your entire life, just like it has done for me and for every single one of my clients. Emma says, if I don't choose daily devotion, I'm choosing stagnancy, and my womb will no longer trust me. My womb is an animal within me, connecting me to all life and all woman. Yes, beautiful, beautiful. Anna says, self-care and personal care is so crucial for your growth, and by doing this, shows through in all aspects of your life. Exactly, babe. Exactly. It is the foundation. It is the foundation for all of this. So if I can just have 5 to 10 more minutes of your time, I would love to share something. So this is my signature coaching program. I'm so excited to share this with you. I ran the first round in June. Emma, who's actually on the call with us today, joined us. And maybe once I've gone through it, she wants to just unmute herself and share a little bit about her experience with you guys. So you have it from someone who's been through the program. But this is my 6-week online group coaching container that provides women the tools and wisdom to reconnect to their cycle, sensuality, sexuality, and feminine energy using cycle syncing, womb healing, body literacy, and somatics. And there is literally an entire module dedicated to healing your relationship to your menstrual cycle, like one whole module. It's packed full of so much wisdom, and the entire course in itself is over 40 hours of pre-recorded content. Emma, you must go look in the portal. I actually uploaded a few new practices there the other day, which is super exciting. And yeah, so once you join, you literally get the portal and the content for the rest of your life. So it's something that even when the container 6 weeks is over, you get to go back to again and again and again and do the practices and watch the videos and just integrate the information on a deeper level. Because as you guys can tell from today's workshop, it's a lot of information and it requires a lot of time and reflection and processing. And so to have lifetime access to this container is just incredible, because not only are we meeting on Zoom once a week for 2 hours to do live coaching and practices and breath work and meditation, and I get to actually, you get to bring your issues to the call, and then I get to coach you, and then you get to learn from other people being coached and ask questions. So that's really fun and interactive, and you get to engage with all the other women in the course as well. But you also then get to in your own time go into the portal, this back end portal that has 40+ hours of pre-recorded content, and do the practices, watch the lecture videos, and engage with all the content in that way. So it's really a multidimensional way of learning. Because here's the thing, you love, oh, excuse me, burping so much today. You love being a woman, right? But you hate settling because you know you deserve and desire so much more. You struggle looking at yourself naked and embracing your body. You hate experiencing PMS, pain, and all the other awful period symptoms. You don't know how to find the time for a regular self-care and masturbation. You often overthink things. You struggle to relax and unwind at the end of the workday. You struggle to get in the mood for sex and often don't feel like it. When you do, you struggle to have deep, long-lasting orgasms. Maybe you struggle and you want to feel more confident in and outside the bedroom. Maybe you have an okay sex life, but you want to spice it up. You want to deepen in connection to your body. You want to deepen in connection to your cycle. You want to learn the secrets of what it means to be a woman and have a womb and have a cycle and menstruate. And so this is exactly why I've created Liberated Womb. The next round starts on October 30th, which means that doors close in 55 days. And I'm so excited because there are 5 learning modules. And with me as your guide, you have 6 weeks of uninterrupted support and guidance along this journey of rediscovering the most powerful and confident version of yourself. So we have the first module, which is healing flow. We have the second module, which is activate her. Third module, deepening trust. Fourth module, self-expressed. And fifth module, which is sex goddess. And so it takes you on this beautiful natural evolution of healing, starting with the womb and feminine energy, then going into the heart chakra, then into the throat chakra, and then healing our relationship to our sexuality, which just ties everything all together. So it's a really powerful container. And you get, like I said, it's actually 2-hour coaching calls per week. And then there's 5 modules in the course portal. You get a menstrual cycle tracker. You get 5 plus, it's probably about like 10 meditations now. You get around 2 meditations per module. You get about 2 embodiment exercises per module. And then you also get a WhatsApp or Telegram community support, which is amazing, for 2 months. So you have, a WhatsApp group where we can post, and you can post about your concerns or what's coming up for you, or, whatever you want to share as you go through the content, if you have any questions. And then there's also 1 week of integration, coaching, and support. And then that WhatsApp community will stay open for an extra 2 weeks after the container is done. So in total value, it's like well over 30K. And then you also get some extra bonuses. You get the Cyclical Living PDF that I spoke about in the call. You also get my Awaken Woman 5-day mini course. You get Intro to Womb Healing workshops. You get a Breaking Up with Birth Control workshop on how to come off birth control healthily, safely, and get your cycle back. And then you also get special guest workshops. With every single round that I do, I bring in special guests who are women in this feminine embodiment and wellness coaching space to come and share their unique wisdom with you. So yeah, there are really amazing bonuses, and the total value, like I said, is well over 30K. But right now you get it for 4K. Okay, because right now there is a pre-launch special for 222 euro or 4K, 4,000 rand, and it ends this Saturday. So if this is something that you are interested in, I highly recommend signing up right now, as after this Saturday the price is going to increase. And there is also a payment plan. So if you can't afford it all in one go, although I recommend signing up right now for the pre-launch special, which ends this Saturday, the 7th of September. And then the early bird pricing will then take effect as I start to officially promote this course and the next round. And then the final pay in full payment will be 8K. So like I said, join now and you're going to receive so much for so little. So it's really like a no-brainer choice. And then if you would like something, a little teaser test or a little bit of taster of my work, the Awaken Woman mini course is available for purchase. Although I am actually going to start a new live round of this. I'm going to do it at the end of September. So maybe wait for that. And that's going to be live round for $11. €11. So that's going to be incredibly accessible. And then, yeah, God, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat below. Otherwise, I would love to just like to invite Emma to quickly unmute herself and just quickly share about her experience doing the liberated womb container.
Hi, Josie.
Hi,
Hi.
love. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling like I'll message you, but I'm feeling like when you showed the course again, I was like, oh, I want to do it again. Because it is something that needs like daily attention. So I'm still working on integrating daily practices and daily things, but even the small changes that I've made since June, I've noticed. Well, like firstly was I've never connected to my womb before June, really. I knew about womb wisdom, but I didn't have the practical. I mean, besides putting my hand on my womb every now and again, but even that I barely did. I'm moving my body and dancing. I feel lighter. I feel like I feel happier and I feel empowered because I know now what times of the month I start to dip into depression, because so used to seeing myself as a depressed person, or used to, and now I'm like, actually I'm not depressed, it's just my hormones for 2 weeks a month that have been doing this for life. I got off my IUD and I had my first non-IUD bleed, which was so beautiful. And it was like much less blood, much less pain. And I felt so much warmth since starting to just meditate and move my hips, like undulate my hips and my spine. And yeah, it's like there's still a lot of trust to build, because like I love the animal reference, but just I've never felt so connected before, and the course was so worth it, because the amount of information is just incredible, and it just gave me a boost of like hope for life and like confidence in myself, and I feel more loving towards myself in the way I think and speak. And also interesting about the manifestation thing is that I actually feel like so much has come together in my life since June. And I started that after I quit, or I didn't quit, I was about to quit, but I got fired from this horrible au pairing job that I had, where I felt like I lost myself, even though it was only a month. And then I started it just after that, and it was just what I needed. And now all of these opportunities and ideas and creativity is coming up. And I'm like, oh, I can choose an alternative way of making money. I can do other things. I don't have to immigrate the country because I'm scared of money and being surviving in South Africa and all of these things. Like, I'm just releasing fear. I found a house to move into, like so much just started to happen. And like 10 or 12 interviews I've done. Not much has come from them, but still just like getting all of these opportunities is very like, yeah, things just started to move more because I started to pay attention. So I highly recommend
Beautiful,
the course.
beautiful. Thank you, my love. And how did you love it with the other women and like the group and like the container? Because that's also quite fun to speak about.
Yes. I feel like I'm sure that was the first time. I feel like it would be nice for there to be, like, I think we weren't quiet, but I think there could have been more sharing, but maybe it was because all of us were so like uninitiated to the information that we were all very internal. Like I felt like that. I felt like I wanted to connect and share more with others, but I was so like, whoa,
Sound
so
like the
much.
group calls and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
It felt like very it was something to look forward to every week. And it also every day I woke up, I felt like motivation to like reclaim my life. And it didn't end when the course ended. That's also, it's like
Amazing.
stayed with me. Yeah.
And having that consistent support for those 6 weeks, did you feel like that was really,
I did feel very supported.
accountability and stuff?
Yes, yes. And your check-ins, and it's like Josie will like encourage and check in with you. It's like it's not like I was like, oh, I'm scared Josie's gonna be upset if I don't do this, but I was like, I felt that like not pressure, but like that like Vuma
Accountability.
energy. Yes,
Yeah,
accountability.
yeah, yeah. And so you get to be your accountability buddy. And that's the beauty of
Yeah.
working in group containers rather than just like, oh, obviously there's a one-to-one capacity, which is also amazing. But the group containers are just so fun for meeting other women and seeing what challenges they're going through and how their stories reflect your
Yes.
stories and
And
chatting,
there were
connecting.
two older women, which was very like
Mm,
I actually that I just remembered now, it was really cool to have different age groups because
mm.
there's so much so the community aspect is really special. Yeah, of
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate your presence.
course.
I'll chat to you soon. Love,
Yeah,
much love. And thank you everyone for being here, whether you're watching live or you are on the replay. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to engage with your period power. It is no joke. It is really, yeah, you get to reclaim this. You get to reclaim your power, your confidence, your sovereignty, your blood, and what just makes you a woman. And so that is such an exciting journey to go on, as it is a continual unfolding, just like the petals of the rose. It is a continual unfolding and expansion and really expanding experience that lasts your whole life, and you get to, the womb is your best friend. Gets to become your best friend that moves through you with every phase of life, and as you move into maybe wanting to become a mother, then that also starts this whole new journey, and so it's just so beautiful that no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, you have your womb to rely on. Isabella says, thank you so much for this beautiful workshop. It has been an amazing time for reflection for me, and I have learned so much. Emma says, I also feel more connected to my maternal lineage and my grandmothers, dead and alive, and feeling what they went through. Yeah, so powerful, so beautiful. So beautiful that we get to do that healing for our entire lineage and literally transform the trajectory of women that will come after us. Like, and we can make that happen. We can be that cycle breaker. Anna says, thank you, Josie. Such an exciting, powerful journey. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Thank you, my loves. Thank you, thank you. Don't forget, if you would like to join us in Liberated Womb, which starts at the end of October, the special, the 4K special ends this Saturday, 222 special. I would love to have you. Would love to have you part of this container. It's going to be yeah, every round is just going to get more and more juicy, more and more packed full of content. Every week, I'm putting more and more content into the back end portal as I get new ideas, as I move through my cycle, as I'm in my ovulation. I'm like, cool, now we're doing sexual healing stuff. And then I'm getting to my luteal. I'm like, no, now we're doing like deep internal shadow work. And then I'm in my menstrual cycle and I'm channeling all these meditations. And then I'm in my follicular phase. I'm like, no, let's teach about this. So it's really exciting. It's ever evolving. It's never static. And yeah, I would love to have you along for the ride. I will, if you're watching the replay, I will leave the link below. Let me actually just drop the link here for you guys who are live in the chat, and you can go check out, whoops, you can go check out the sales page and see if this is something that you are interested in. And otherwise, I'm wishing you all a beautiful, beautiful evening. Go also, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can go and binge on my YouTube channel. You're going to find old past workshops, free meditations, free embodiment practices. There's some yoni healing meditations there and embodiment practices that also are reflected of the work that we do inside my group coaching container and one-to-one coaching. So yeah, the resources are there, they're available, and I am here available. Just drop me a DM. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm here to support you and hold you through this journey. And like I said at the beginning, you don't need to do it alone. You don't need to feel like it's you against the world. It's you on this journey and it's so dark and scary and confusing. No, you get to have me as your best friend, as your support system, as your guide, as your mentor. And yeah, I get to hold your hand and we get to walk through these portals of initiation and growth together. Okay, my loves, I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here. Chat soon. Ciao.